Come to order as the Board of County Commissioners, February 11th, 2003. Good morning. If you'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the we will have the invocation first and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me.
Let us pray. Dear Father, help us trust in your unfailing love and to find peace and joy in our lives. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held February 4th, 2003. If there are no corrections or additions, please, we're ready to entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Has been accepted. Next item is resolution number 03-26, proclaiming the week of February 16th through February 22nd as Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Madam Clerk, could you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 03-26, a resolution proclaiming the week of February 16th, 2003 through February 22nd, 2003 as Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Engineers have used their scientific and technical knowledge and skills in creative and innovative ways to fulfill society's needs. Engineers face the major technological challenges of our time, from rebuilding towns devastated by natural disasters to designing an information superhighway that will speed our country into this new century. Engineers are encouraging our young math and science students to realize the practical power of their knowledge. We will look forward to more than ever to engineers and their knowledge and skills to meet the challenges of the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, this Board does hereby proclaim the week of February 16, 2003 through February 22, 2003 as Engineers Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. This Board urges the citizens of St. Lucie County to participate in Engineers Week in St. Lucie County.
Thank you. I'm ready to entertain a motion on this item, please.
Madam Chair, move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion is passed. I understand Mr. John Donahue of the Treasure Coast Chapter of Florida Engineering Society, his estate director, is here to receive the presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Next item on the agenda, I'm pleased to announce that we are having the presentation for the Employee of the Year. Mr. Anderson will announce the 2002 Employee of the Year for St. Lucie County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before doing that, I'd like to announce the awards for each quarter that we've already given out to recognize those employees, who in turn then were considered for Employee of the Year award. The first quarter was Doreen Pike. Doreen, are you here? Can you stand? Okay. Second quarter was Paul Hyatt. Third quarter was Paula A. Bowers. In the fourth quarter was Veronica, I just have difficulty saying this, Lacopera. Thank you. Okay, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'd like to announce the winner of the year, Employee of the Year award, and then I'd like to read the original nomination, why he was nominated for this award. And the winner is Mr. Paul Hyatt. And with us, Mr. Hyatt receives a day off with pay, and I'd like to read why he was nominated, what the nomination said. It said, Mr. Hyatt continually, year after year, unselfishly gives up his personal time on behalf of many special county projects, such as the County Fair booth and the Chili Cook-Off. He has organized fundraisers to support these projects, such as the hot dog sales and hallway rummage sale. He has coordinated and organized the county volunteers and obtained resources to make these events successful. The county has gained recognition through these efforts and benefits by his contributions. His peers recognize the commitment he has to the community-oriented projects and have often commented that he deserves official recognition. And he won the second quarter award, now the Employee of the Year.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. I do have a plaque commemorating this event.
I am truly humbled to be able to receive this award. I do it for the recognition of the county. I don't do it for myself. I just want to recognize that there's employees here that do things, and we can get together and promote ourselves and show the community that as county employees that we are involved in the community, and that's the real reason I do it all. Thank you.
Just a comment. As someone who has been on the other end of Paul's fundraising efforts, I can say he does deserve an award. Anyway, next item on the agenda is a presentation. I understand Al Rivet, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, will present a 12-minute video on restoring the Indian River Lagoon Everglades restoration.
Good morning. I'm Lee Dobbins, President of the St. Lucie County Chamber. And before I turn it over to Al, I'd just like to personally thank the Commission for their support of the CERT project. It's something that's going to be a real boost for the business community in St. Lucie County, but more importantly, I'm personally very excited about what this is going to mean for all the residents of the area. It's the CERT project. I think a lot of the populace doesn't really realize how much of an impact this is going to have locally. It's going to do a lot of great things as far as clearing up the Indian River Lagoon, creating recreational areas. So this is just a really great project that everybody can get behind. And we just have to make sure that the project goes forward and that the funding is available for it. And I think that this CERT video is going to be an important part in getting that message out to let people know what this means locally and to get the support behind it. So again, I want to thank you guys for supporting this. Al.
Thank you, Lee, and Commissioners, again, thank you for your support in making this possible. We will, after the video, talk to you a little bit about what our intentions are in regard to the use of this video and how we intend to inform the public about $1 billion worth of projects that are likely slated for St. Lucie and Martin counties. Just a little bit of background before we roll the video. Our president last year, Doug Davis, who's with us this morning, saw the need for promoting Everglades restoration. As Lee indicated, a lot of folks are not aware that we have anything to do with Everglades restoration and what it means to our community. But it means work for businesses and for our employees, as well as a much safer and cleaner environment. So we, at Doug's direction, we put a task force together. Bill Teese was the chairman. We have a very active group. Actually, Commissioner Barnes has served on that, as well as elected officials from Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie. And we put together a selection process that was weighted by points so that we could come up with the right production firm that met the specific needs that we had and what we were trying to accomplish with this video. And that contract was awarded to Apex Productions, and we're going to let you see the efforts of their work. Also, the narration has been done by Jeff Ofather, and Jeff is with us also, so you'll hear a friendly voice on the tape. And also, Mr. Bud Adams, who happens to be with us, also participated in the tape. So we have a lot of folks that we'll be thanking. But without further ado, again, we'll roll the video and appreciate you and your support of it, and then we'll come back and talk about how we're going to take advantage of the video. Thank you.
Thank you.
Water. Water in lakes. Flowing in streams, moving through marshes, flowing into the lagoons, making its way through the Everglades, spreading its life-giving force across the natural landscape, forming the very essence of this land we now call Florida. A land that before man came along and began developing and turning it to his own ends, took care of itself. And the water that formed its essence. Water and how it moves is Florida's fate, and we now have a very real stake in shaping that future.
Every time you get another 100,000 people here, they all require fresh water every day, and they all flush every day, and so it just from the normal growth of the population, you have to have more water.
This is what the Treasure Coast looked like before the early 1900s. Nature had her own ways of managing water, and some of the ways she did that so well was by holding most of the water in natural holding areas like marshes, lakes, and lower inland wetlands and woods. Water falling between the coastal ridges slowly seeped into the ground, replenishing the water table and creeping its way under the surface, ultimately to the oceans. In the early 1900s, people with the best of intentions began changing the way water flowed. We began building one of the world's most complex systems of dikes, canals, and control gates. But along the way, we lost some of our precious natural resources and changed forever the way water moves. Rancher Bud Adams has lived here all his life. He's well known for finding innovative and natural ways to manage the land and water, and he's getting back to what nature intended by restoring marshes, wetlands, and natural reservoirs.
This storage of water here, it keeps your aquifer up, it improves your wildlife, and it provides water for agriculture. It's a win-win thing.
This is how it works now. When it rains, the water collects into puddles. The puddles overflow into swales, ditches, pipes, and canals, and joins all the other millions of drops in a rapidly growing stream that carries with it pesticides, herbicides, grease and oil, as well as other petroleum waste, byproducts, sediments, and other pollutants. It quickly makes its way into the canals, where it's held up or released by a series of control gates. These are only temporary barriers because as the water levels quickly rise in the canals, it's released and makes its way into the St. Lucie River and Indian River Lagoon, and eventually into the oceans. Within hours of falling onto the earth, water that once took weeks and months to make its way through nature's filters is now gushing into a defenseless coastal ecosystem. The results can be disastrous. In addition to the pollution carried by the water, the sudden flows change the salinity of the river and lagoon. Fish die by the thousands. Fishermen begin catching fish covered with lesions. Wildlife along the waterways suffer. Along the bottom, there's a steady, smothering accumulation of sedimentation, muck, and ooze. The opposite side of this equation is just as damaging, because we've destroyed much of nature's way of storing water, and we've wasted the fresh water available in the wet season. In times of drought, we don't have the extra water we need. Lakes shrink, some dry up. Ponds, wetlands, woods that should have a reservoir of water are dry and dying. Fires devastate huge tracts of land, destroying homes and lives. Water restrictions become a way of life. The Everglades Restoration Plan is giving us an opportunity we will never again have. This $8.2 billion plan will help to bring us back to what nature had in mind in the beginning by providing for storage for freshwater rain and runoff, by restoring marshes for water quality, by restoring native landscapes and diverting water for better salinity control while removing the sediments and ooze. Our share of this project $1 billion will help us not only improve our environment and quality of life, but will provide jobs during construction and for years to come as this system is maintained. The economic benefits are enormous and far-reaching and will touch all of us at some level.
If we're not able to move ahead with the Everglades restoration, and particularly the Indian River Lagoon restoration, unfortunately we'll see a continued decline in the health and water quality in the lagoon, a depletion of the fisheries that are there now, the inability to provide adequate flood protection for future growth, and an inability to provide an adequate water supply without going to dramatically more expensive sources such as desalination of seawater.
Our part of the larger Everglades plan is called the Indian River Lagoon Restoration Plan. This $1 billion project, by far the largest water resources project ever undertaken on the Treasure Coast, calls for us to build 4 above-ground water storage reservoirs, 5 water treatment marshes, and 2 water diversion features, and to restore an additional 92,000 acres of land to its natural state, and to remove the layers of ooze that have accumulated and choked huge parts of the St. Lucie River. This plan will save us millions of dollars worth of water every year, while pumping millions of dollars every year into the area economy through the creation of new jobs and the demand for materials for construction and maintenance. The 4 water storage reservoirs will take the overflow from the canals and save it for when it's needed, instead of allowing it to flow into the river and lagoon. Wildlife and fish downstream will be exposed to fewer pollutants and smaller, less frequent changes in salinity. By holding the water, the reservoirs will provide natural filtration while the groundwater and aquifer are recharged. The reservoirs will provide recreational opportunities as well, from kayaking to fishing and picnicking. The water treatment marshes will take water from the reservoirs and clean it before it's released to other water users and into the environment. Pollutants such as phosphorus and nitrogen will be reduced by significant amounts, and these treatment marshes will provide lush natural habitat for birds and other wildlife that will return to the region. The 2 water diversion features are designed to recreate natural water flow patterns, moving project waters back to the headwaters of the north and south forks of the St. Lucie River. Natural salinity patterns will be restored. The restoration of more than 92,000 acres of uplands and wetlands will result in even more water storage capacity and will bring back lush natural habitat for the millions of creatures that used to live here. Removing the layers of ooze that have accumulated on the river bottom over the years will help restore a sandy bottom habitat and bring back the oyster beds and seagrasses. Once again, the water will be clear and clean, bringing back the thousands of fish and birds that used to inhabit the waters and shoreline.
We can take this water that would gush out as runoff and store it in these reservoirs and let the sediment filter out. It will improve our water quality as well as increase our water supply.
Taken together, all of these improvements will recreate the natural movement and distribution of the life-giving fresh waters upon which all life depends. Much has to be done before any of this becomes a reality, before nature can be given back the job she does so well, the job of managing and cleansing the waters upon which all of Florida and her people depend. Public input will be needed, and our elected public officials must begin now to figure out how to fund our share of the work, how to accomplish the goals of the most ambitious water restoration project in history while minimizing the impact on the people who are here, their businesses and families, and the people who will come.
Quality of life is very important to the citizens in St. Lucie County. They enjoy, I think, a healthy Indian River Lagoon, a healthy estuary, and in order to provide a healthy estuary system, we need to have the type of water storage and water attenuation that's needed to prevent the deluges into the river that has caused severe adverse environmental impacts.
The alternative, if this opportunity is lost, is almost unthinkable. The quality of life that makes the Treasure Coast so unique will gradually be eroded as more and more people make the region their home and demands continue to be made on an ecosystem that is already stretched beyond its capacity to cope. By the year 2050, it's estimated more than 10 million people will live in the region. As water quality worsens, as beaches continue to close and fish begin to die in ever-increasing numbers in our canals and rivers, demands will be made that the existing infrastructure and system will not be able to meet. People will demand that something be done, but without the Everglades Restoration Plan already in place, solutions will be temporary at best and ineffectual at worst. The time is now, and the opportunity must be taken by all of us. The benefits will be enormous. Our lagoon and nearshore waters will become cleaner and clearer, with storage reservoirs and stormwater treatment marshes removing pollutants and controlling the flow of fresh water into our rivers, the lagoon, and nearshore ocean waters. Fish and wildlife will return healthier and in greater numbers. Our beaches will be cleaner, and the conditions on nearshore reefs will improve and eventually return to their natural grandeur. Tourism will be stronger than ever as people continue to visit and enjoy our beaches, the fishing in our lakes and rivers, the sport fishing offshore, and the diving that rivals some of the best locations in the world. These are only a few of the resources upon which our economy depends, resources we have a $1 billion stake in with the Everglades Restoration Project. Florida itself was and is formed by water. Its geology and geography, its history, its culture, and the people who have lived here, live here now, and those who will come later will all be influenced by our water. Our economy and our very well-being depends on water. How can you help in this massive ecosystem restoration project? You can begin by contacting your congressman and urging their continued support of Everglades restoration efforts. You can support your city or county governments in their efforts to implement programs that will work in conjunction with the comprehensive Everglades Restoration Project to further reduce stress on our rivers and lagoon. Such programs would include stormwater management programs, continued acquisition of environmentally sensitive lands, implementing sound growth management practices, and water conservation policies. If we all work together toward the common goal of restoring the Indian River Lagoon, we may once again see Florida waters the way nature intended them to be. How we participate today to manage this precious commodity will determine how all of us live tomorrow.
I hope that you are equally as proud of this piece of work as we are. Here's an example where you can do something by committee and have it turn out positively. We've had a lot of folks collaborate in putting this together, and I want to just take a few moments to thank a number of folks. And I'm going to miss everybody, and so I'm only going to try to hit just a few key folks. Mr. Adams and Henry Dean for their portion in the video. The Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Mascara allowed us to use the helicopter, his helicopter. Jeff Ofather for his work in helping to craft the script and the voiceover. And then Bill Thies, our chairman of our committee, and all of his committee members for their excellent job in putting this together. Where do we go from here? Well, it's good to have a video and tells an excellent story, but it's only as good as we get it out to the public. We have formed a Speakers Bureau. Our intention is to go out to as many groups in St. Lucie County that has interest in doing this, and whether they call us or not, we're going to call them to make sure that they get a chance to see this presentation. We also look to work with your staff and that of Port St. Lucie and the school system to put this on the government and public access channels. We think it's important for the public to be able to see this. We also will be establishing public information sessions. We have set up our first session for the 25th of February from 3 to 5 p.m. in B120 at the Community College campus here in Fort Pierce. And we'll be advertising those sessions through some cable TV advertising, radio, and print media. And we'll getting the word out that folks can learn more about Indian River Lagoon restoration and the importance of Everglades restoration to St. Lucie County and the Treasure Coast. What does Everglades restoration have to do with us here? A lot, nearly $1 billion, and we are certainly trying to get the word out about this project and what it means to us, what it means to businesses. And again, we want to thank you for your great portion in making that possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rivett. Moving on through the agenda, it's not on here, but we do have some announcements. Mr. Anderson, would you handle the announcements for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners will hold a workshop with staff, the Fire District, constitutional officers, and Thomas Lucido and Associates on February 20th, 2003 at 2 p.m. in Conference Room 3 in this building to discuss the Administration Complex Campus Plan. The Board of County Commissioners and the City of Fort Pierce City Commissioners will attend a Fort Pierce Parks bus tour on March 27th, 2003, beginning at 2 p.m. The purpose of this tour will be to tour the county and city parks in the Fort Pierce area. And finally, the last announcement is the 38th Annual St. Lucie County Fair will open on February 28th, 2003 at 4 p.m. and will close on March 9th, 2003. The fair will be held at the new fairgrounds located at the intersection of Midway and Okeechobee Roads, and we will be ready.
Thank you. Pleased to hear that. Next on the agenda, we have item 3, general public comment. Are there any members of the public present that wish to address the board? Yes, sir.
I'm getting old, but I'll hobble up here, young lady. I'm David Kuhn. I live at 7206 Cabana Lane in Lakewood Park. My question is, how much is enough money? Now, I look at, you're talking about the Everglades Restoration Project. On my taxes, I have Everglades Project 1 mil taxes. The property owners of the county are paying for all the services, but we're not getting the credit. And I think something has to be done because we are continually getting more and more ad valorem taxes on our bill. There are 20 taxes on there right now, 22 mills. We're going to have a transportation tax put on. I understand, I mean, I don't know the whole story of it. 25 cents for each $1,000. It seemed like a little bit, and it is a little bit, but you know it will get more as the projects go on. Parks and Recreation, another ad valorem tax. You are paying for port improvement. The Chamber of Commerce gets money from the county to keep it going. Now, gentlemen, you are in a business, yet you are a governing body. I have only one suggestion. You got to hunt for more money, and it cannot come off of the property owners. We are a tied down group of people. So my suggestion is to you, why don't you start a lotto in St. Lucie County to make some money that way? If the state can do it, start it here. And if you start a lotto in St. Lucie County, every county in the state of Florida will have one. And if you can make money that way and go in business, do it. Find some other way to get the money, but don't keep putting it on the property owners. And I thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to comment that we do certainly attempt to find other means of financing things. This board has been very moderate, attempted not to raise your property taxes on a yearly basis. Certainly, the transit MSTU, we have not placed an amount on that yet. That will be done during our budget discussions in July. And we are no longer giving economic development money to the Chamber of Commerce. That's handled through the Economic Development Council. So just as a point of interest, but I certainly understand what you're saying, and I assure you this board does attempt to keep you in mind when we're making our deliberations.
I know that you have done a good job. I've come to these meetings several times when people come up and ask for money on little things, restoration house and so on like that. You have stopped that, I understand, which I agree with. I know that in the future, and as we progress, of course at my age I won't be here, but things are going to cost more and more money. But there has to be some other way of finding some money to maintain the government. The state provided a lotto. It's helping, I guess. I don't know what you can do. Try anything. Try anything. And I know it's a problem that you people have. And we, as property owners, have a hard time keeping our own houses going. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wants to address the board? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Bill Detmeyer, and I'm here to represent the Sundancers Flying Club. And Al Rivet's program's a pretty hard act to follow, so I'll do my best at this. A few months back, I met with Commissioner Doug Coward, and the commissioner was very, very helpful. Spent a lot of time with me and gave me a lot of direction. Also met with the administrator, Doug Anderson, again very, very helpful. And we started a process going, and we put together a business plan. And what our dilemma is, first of all, let me give you a little background on the Sundancers, and I realize I only have 5 minutes because I can go on for hours. It's my passion. We have a flying club over on Midway Field. We have 250 members. We have 30 members waiting to get into the club now that we can't let into the club because of the size of the field and restrictions. Only 4 flyers can fly at a time. Our membership is a very diverse membership. We have World War II pilots there. We have Korean War. We have many veterans. We have young folks down to 8 years old that fly model airplanes. It's a family project. Our club supports 3 hobby shops, again, excuse me, in St. Lucie County. It is a very positive thing. We have a big bird fly-in 2 weeks over at Midway, and that attracts 3,000 people over the weekend, and we don't even advertise it. We're afraid to advertise it because we can't handle the crowds. So model aviation in the state of Florida and throughout the world is becoming a big thing. It's a high-tech sport. We have trainers that people fly that cost $150. We have airplanes $35,000 with real turbine engines in them, 4-motor B-17 bombers, and so it's a very sophisticated sport. It can be very inexpensive and it can be very expensive. There's all kinds of events that go on throughout the state of Florida. They have Jets Over Florida. They have a Top Gun show, and it draws tens of thousands of people. So anyway, I'm here pleading for some help from the county. The city of Port St. Lucie has been very, very generous. The property that we fly off of at Midway Field we're gonna be losing that in a very short period of time. We don't know when, but it's definite that we're going to lose it. We put together a plan and addressed many, many issues. I give Doug, I think it was like 10 copies. I'm sure Doug Coward got them. I don't know who in the county, but I have been through every single department in the county, And people have been very positive. They want to work with us. Our problem, our dilemma is identifying a flying spot. We're not here asking for any money. We have our own funds. We don't have funds enough to buy our own property. But what we're really looking for is some land. The land will stay the same. It's going to be green. We're not building blacktop runways or anything else. We'd like to put up a real nice pavilion so we can store our equipment in and sit under it on a hot summer day. But again, it's a very, very positive thing. Again, there's programs all over the place. In Ocala, Florida, they have a flying site there, second to none. There's probably 150 sites. Most of them are sponsored by the county. They have them on greenways projects. They have them in parks and recreation. They have them on landfills. Again, we've had many discussions about the landfill here in St. Lucie County. The landfill is going to be capped off for another 4 years, and then another part of it's going to start, and that's going to go on for another 20 years. So that's kind of out. So our dilemma, again, is identifying a piece of property. Our total goal is to make it a win-win situation so it works for the county and so it works for the taxpayers to create value for maybe some underutilized property or whatever. And again, provide, I got the stop button, so I guess I got to go now. So anyway, what I'm here looking for is an endorsement from this commission that we will get some assistance in identifying a spot that's appropriate for aviation. Okay? And again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir. I think one of the things we've been looking at recently, in line with the recent referendum for parks and recreation, has been diversifying the offerings available. Mr. Anderson, are we engaged in looking, or can we perhaps devote some time to looking to see what we can do?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have devoted quite a bit of time already. We've already discussed the landfill, and that's not going to be closed out. Where Fairwinds Golf Course is, we can't make land available there because of the close proximity to the airport and the planes flying with other airplanes. We've looked at even environmentally significant lands, sensitive lands, but because they're environmentally sensitive and the wildlife that is there, our people are recommending to us that we do not have, airplanes out on that property. We've looked at the fairgrounds. We can make the fairgrounds available when other events aren't going on at the fairgrounds, and we've sent a letter, I believe, to your organization saying that we could rent, the fairgrounds on those weekends or weekdays when there are not other events scheduled where the planes may not interfere with, other events. We're really trying hard to work with this organization. I know you've met some of my neighbors even. They've been lobbying me. So, I mean, they really believe in it. And it's a great program. It really is. And I've driven by where you people are out there on weekends. I see all the people out there. And we're doing everything we can. It's, as you know, it's difficult to acquire land in St. Lucie County. And we're trying to work with these folks. We haven't given up.
Well, just to let you know, sir, that there is something being done. It's being taken very seriously. If you've even got his neighbors lobbying with that kind of grassroots support, it's bound to work.
I have invitation to speak at other community business organizations that want to come in here and help us. We have, again, doctors, lawyers, firemen, policemen, veterans, you name it. It's a very diversified group, and we have an awful lot of fun, and it's a great hobby, and especially for kids, we have educational programs, and I know my 5 minutes is up, and I never shut up. I can vouch for that. But again, our kids grow up to become pilots or engineers and so on by building model airplanes. We have support from NASA. We have a letter of support from Neil Armstrong, Chuck Gorman, and so on. So there's a lot of support behind us. It's just identifying a piece of grass there somewhere in the county. And again, I thank you very much, and I'm sorry I went over.
Well, thank you. I think we can agree that there is something being done, and we won't let it get lost. Yes, ma'am?
Good morning. I'm Dolores Hogan Johnson. I represent the St. Lucie Waterfront Council. And I do want to commend the Chamber and directly the County Commission for helping to underwrite the video that we just witnessed. And it's a magnificent project that's about to be undertaken, and I hope that we as a state and as a community can rebuild this and never put the kind of money to destroy it. And like Jeff said in the thing, it was good intentions when natural water flow was diverted, but you can't mess with Mother Nature as we're seeing. So we're hoping that that can go on. I'd also like to speak to the project that's at hand with the 67 acres in the port property. I do hope that you all got the letter a copy of the letter that I sent to Senator Pruitt. And I commend your efforts. We are very sensitive to the nature of the taking of the property, but I truly feel, our organization feels, that the county, and representing the citizens of St. Lucie County, you've been more than fair in your efforts to try to deal with the landowner there. And we ask that you continue the efforts. We talk about compromise and what have you, and as I've talked to groups and talked within our group, supporting the Haskell plan has been a compromise for us. And we go on record to say that we will, and we're confident that this project will go forward, but we will be vigilant to make sure that with the Haskell project, once it's going forward, that it will be very sensitive and respectful of the Indian River Lagoon. And I think that this project will give us the economic boost. I think that this project, as I've spoken of in the past so often, that we support projects that are both economically and ecologically sustainable. And we feel that this project is that. We hope that other entities will continue to embrace it, and we hope that all things that are for the betterment and quality of life with this county will continue to be undertaken by you, and I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Is there any other member of the public present that wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll come back to the agenda. Next item is the consent agenda. This is a group of items which are handled as one. They generally are non-controversial, dealing with general order of business. However, any commissioner can pull one for separate voter discussion. Are there any items today that we wish to pull for separate voter discussion, please?
Madam Chair, just clarification, item 10, has that been pulled already?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was going to note that we have pulled item C10.
Okay. If there's no discussion, I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Moving right along, we have no public hearings today. The only item remaining is bi-weekly committee reports, and as is our custom, we will start with Commissioner Brune.
Alrighty, on the Law Library Board, we met, still just discussing how to support the Port St. Lucie Library and what books and what computers we're going to put in the St. Lucie West Law Library. Value Adjustment Board, we met and decided some cases that were brought before the board, and continued one to go back in front of the special master to be decided later. And that's it for me.
Very good. Commissioner Hutchinson?
The Indian River Lagoon group that meets on a quarterly basis meets at the end of this month, so I'll be following up later with that report. I'm sorry, Lake Okeechobee Coalition again meets in March. Value Adjustment Board has not met yet this month. Treasure Coast Local Governments met last week, and there were several different things that we touched base on. On next month's agenda, we're going to be inviting representatives from the hospitals to discuss the medical malpractice concerns that will be coming down from both federal and state, possibly to the county levels, basically so we can all have an overview and see what we can do as a group, whether to support or not support. There was also discussions that staffs from all the counties were meeting to discuss the possibility of buying and or building an asphalt producing plant. So that one's more. We'll follow up on that one as that comes around. That's a little bit out there, but I was happy to say that Mr. Anderson and Mr. McIntyre were both present when that discussion was going on, so they're well aware of it. The other issues at the meeting mostly concerned federal issues, ones that we all agree upon, such as reimbursement for Medicare, transit, beach erosion, airport, homeland security. We are sending Doug Smith as chair of that board to Washington next month. I know I'll be going up there and taking some things up. I believe Mayor Minsky was up there last month. So it's basically making sure we're staying and have representation at the federal level each month as they go through their budget planning. And workforce development, most of the agenda was basic housekeeping. There was discussion on setting up a separate committee that will meet with each city and county commission. Those dates were not confirmed, so I don't want to repeat them at this time. And then basically our annual retreat, there was discussion on that and where it's going to be held. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Sure. Mine's actually very light. I had the Tourist Development Council meeting for January, and that's been rescheduled to February 12th. So I have no report at this time. I do have a question going back to the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments. Was there a discussion at that time about the Port of Fort Pierce and any specific recommendation made by that group?
There was not really a recommendation. There was a presentation given by Mr. Anderson and Mr. McIntyre. There was not a recommendation that came out of that board. They had asked prior to just bring them up to date as to what was going on, so they were aware, and they offered support, whatever level they can give it.
Okay. And while we're talking about the port, can I just, I'll hold off for a second. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm last. Council on Aging did meet. We elected new officers, and there was, as usual, discussion of the MSTU and where that might go. It has to go before the cities as yet. We also, the Value Adjustment Board did meet, as Commissioner Brune has already reported. We have another meeting coming up, I believe. And I would just like to comment on the Value Adjustment Board that our workload has diminished dramatically, which indicates to me that most questions or concerns or appeals are being addressed at the property appraiser's office, and I truly appreciate that. I think it's a wonderful thing. And with that, we come to the end of our agenda. Were there any other issues to be brought forward by commissioners, please?
Madam Chair, just briefly following up on the discussion about the port, have we seen any specific progress or proposal from the landowner since our last public discussion?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Coward, Dan McIntyre, the county attorney, and myself are going to be meeting with Mr. Bell one more time prior to February 18th. We have a scheduled meeting with him. It is our understanding that he and his wife and his attorney will be present.
Okay. Has he provided any specific proposal at this time?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other matters to be brought forward by other commissioners, perhaps? If not, motion to adjourn?
So
Thank you.
We'll reconvene as the Mosquito Control Board for February 11th. We'll begin with the minutes, January 28th.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any general public comment? Seeing no one, we proceed to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No discussion. We'll convene.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We'll come to order St. Lucie County Erosion District. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of January 14th. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
In general public comment, is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the Erosion District? Seeing no one, we do have a presentation today by Howard Marlowe of Marlowe & Company. He is our eyes and ears at the federal level to keep an eye, make sure we have our projects in front of the Senate and the House. Mr. Marlowe, welcome.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. It is good to be here. I've had the privilege of serving St. Lucie County for a number of years now. We've gone through a lot of challenges together, and we've surmounted them all so far, and we have some more to come. I want to bring you up to date on what's going on in Washington with regard to, one, specifically your beach nourishment efforts, and two, in the general picture, and tell you that it's in flux to some extent in terms of the general picture, which also affects our specific project. A few years ago, a couple years ago, I guess it is, we've had the first 1.3 mile beach fill in, and the Corps, in one of the rare cases, really had a design that was not good. People think that beach projects are simply putting sand on the beach, and they actually involve a design of trying to make sure that the sand not only gets on the beach, but it stays on the beach. And in some areas, obviously, it did not stay on the beach here. The issue is very much on my mind, is very much on your minds, because what we want to do is, and what the Corps has developed, is a plan to get the sand back on the beach and to be able to hold it there. We have in the current, as you know, the last Congress, the 107th Congress, left and went out of business without passing 11 of the 13 appropriations bills that fund the government. And only this can only happen at the federal government level. You can't do it at the state level, and you certainly can't do it here in the county. But we managed to find a way to keep the government going. As you notice, it's been functioning pretty well. One of the problems, though, that we have is that without the 11 appropriations bills passed, let's just take the one that we're interested in. It's called the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill. The Corps of Engineers cannot do anything with the money that it has under a continuing resolution, which says, well, we'll let you continue to do your operations in fiscal 03 at the level that you did them in fiscal 02. But the entire Corps of Engineers budget is determined specifically by Congress. It isn't just an amount of money, it's specifically told where to use that money. And we want them to use between $2.5 and $3.5 million restoring that 1.3 miles of beach, and that's actually just the first installment of what needs to be done. And since that wasn't an item in fiscal 02, the Corps can't spend it on the continuing resolution in fiscal 03, and if that gets confusing, let's just say that we're stuck at the moment waiting for Congress to act. I hope, but cannot promise, that they will act by the end of this week. If they don't, they go into recess next week for President's Day for the entire week, and I don't like recesses. There are pauses in action, and in the course of doing that, very often it may be till March 15th, and some senators have, some members of Congress in general have suggested that maybe the best thing to do is for Congress to operate under continuing resolution entirely for the fiscal year. Not good for us. Not good for any, not just us, but for any of the other people who are in the Corps of Engineers budget. Not just on the beaches. The Corps of Engineers budget is ports, flood control, navigation, inland waterways. They're all pretty much in the same boat. So my hope is that that we'll have a budget passed, and that we will have the $2.5 to $3 million that we're looking for. But I wish I could guarantee you that at the moment, and I wish I could come here and say that we already had it done. Having said that, the fiscal 04 process is already beginning to get underway. In fiscal 04, we will also be looking for money for the beach. I should point out there's really two parts of our request, and I don't want to ignore the second part at all. In fiscal 03, we also requested money to begin the feasibility study for the southern 4 miles in the county. Basically, what we want to do is have the Corps now take a look at all of the beaches and the beach shoreline miles in the county, and see what federal interest there is in doing, participating with the state and with the county in a shore protection project. And the major area that has not been looked at are the southern 4 miles beach that eventually abut on Martin County. We're waiting on that money for 03, and we have more money that we'll be requesting for a feasibility study. Generally lasts about 3 years. In the feasibility study, the Corps takes a look at whether there is a federal interest. They take a look at the environmental impact. They take a look at sand source and cost, and eventually determine the benefit-cost ratio. That is, no federal money is going to be spent unless the return to the federal taxpayer is at least $1 to the dollar in cost for the federal taxpayer. I might add that on that issue, although we haven't done a specific study of the beaches here in St. Lucie County, what we can say from the studies that have been done of beaches in Florida and all the way out to California is that for every dollar spent, not only are there returns on the local level to the economy, but there are significantly more direct tax returns to the state government and even more to the federal government. Let me give you an example. One community in a similar size in California, their returns net to the local community, because you also spend money to provide various services for your beaches, so you have to net out the dollars that, let's say, tourists spend, whether they're day trippers or whether they spend a week. They are spending some sort of money, and it is going into the economy. Then you net, and some of that is floating to the county government. You have to net out that against the cost you have of maintaining the beaches, whether it be police services, lifeguard services, things like that. They're getting about 30 cents a person a day. The state government winds up on a daily basis in direct tax revenues with about $5 a day, and the federal government with over $10 a day in direct tax benefits. So while it may vary from community to community, I don't think the magnitudes are going to change. The fact of the matter is that the folks in Washington are benefiting a great deal from that dollar invested of federal money, plus the money that you folks have invested, because you put quite a bit of effort into it, and the state has put quite a bit of effort into it. So in all of that process, the feasibility study takes a look at that in a very narrow sense. Unfortunately, they don't take a look at that broad issue. They're going to take a look at storm damage reduction benefits. How much property are we going to protect? And the federal government takes a look at benefit to cost as benefit is storm damage reduction, cost is the cost of renourishing the beach. If it doesn't equal better, 1-to-1, or actually better than 1-to-1 under current standards, then they stop at that point. We have every indication that parts of the southern 4 miles will be better than 1-to-1, but we need that feasibility study to keep going, because the end of the rainbow for the feasibility study is that that section or portions of that section of the shorefront will get authorized as a federal project, which means the federal government will come back again and cost share with the state and with the county, and put in approximately 65% of the cost of quote constructing, putting sand on the beach. In the president's budget for '04, there is not 1 cent of money for any beach in the state of Florida. And I can propose various theories for it, but I cannot understand it. It's the second year in a row that there has been no money for the state of Florida. By comparison, there is $25 million for the state of New Jersey. And Florida and New Jersey have always, since going back to the 1950s, have been in a very friendly competition with each other for money. Let me give you some idea of the total perspective. Incidentally, I should point out to you that the president's budget, contrary to what happens at the state level, and I assume what happens at the county level, the president's budget, the day that it is introduced means something. The day afterwards means very little. In our process, it's Congress that develops the budget. And therefore, what happens here is that although the president has gone through and then I can leave you with a listing of all of the projects, but as you said, none in Florida. The President has, again, line item each one. There's a project in Ocean Beach, California, $100,000, and it goes down the list, and one in Delaware for $2,008,000. You know, it goes down line by line that way. And what happens is that Congress decides how to allocate this money. If it wants, when you have a zero, as we do have right now for all the projects in Florida, Congress will not let that happen. It will be added to, and there will be money. All we have to do here is continue to get the support of our congressional delegation. I'm going to come back to that issue in just a moment. And that process begins with requests, which are going to be due this month. The requests, the Commission has been extremely good over the years in making contact, both through letter and through direct contact with its delegation. So we'll start it out with a letter again, and we have some, Congress is starting to get a little bureaucratic on the Senate side. We've got some forms to fill out. But other than that, we'll get the requests in for the money, and I would be, I don't have the final figures because one of the problems is that the amount of money we need in fiscal 04 is dependent upon how much is appropriated in 03. So I do hope we have this worked out very shortly. But in rough figures, for your 1.3 mile project, you've got about $4 million that you're going to be looking for there in 04. And for the feasibility study in the lower 4 miles of the county, about $300,000 we'll be looking for. And that's all within the range of being doable. Together we can work on that one. That process after request goes to the congressional committees, and the process of appropriations really starts in the April to June period and then ends hopefully by October 1st of this year, even though it never ended by October 1st of last year, and it's still going on. The success that you've had to date, let me point out to you that this has been a poster child for things that could go wrong and that have not been the fault of the county in every respect. The President's policy in the last administration was to do everything the administration could to resist what were called new beach projects. We were a new beach project. And we overcame that resistance. But there's only one way that you overcome that. One is that the need is there and it's real. And two, that the community support is real. And I want to commend you folks on the Commission because you have to do the impossible. You have to stick through a Corps of Engineers process and a process set up by the administration as well, which forces you to go for a long period of time waiting to see sand at the end of the rainbow. Folks in this community as a whole deserve very much to be congratulated because a lot of folks just don't even want to look at that to start out with. That's why folks in other states who are not able to catch up with Florida and New Jersey and some of the other states that have been very active, they're taking a look at it now and saying, no, I don't want to spend those 10 or, as it may turn out, more like 15 years of going through this thing. And without going through all the details, then to find that we get sand on the beach and the design that the Corps produced is not one which held that sand. But the Corps has come back and redesigned. And a design that I know has sparked some discussion in the community, but which I also feel from my own experience is one which is worthy of the Commission's support. And I'm delighted that you have given it support. These projects work, and the fact that we had failure in one area is a rarity, but it does happen. It's not unique, and we have to just keep on pressing away and going back at it. If I had my druthers, of course, when the Corps makes a mistake in design, they'd have 100% responsibility for coming back and putting it in on their own dollar. Unfortunately, Congress has not seen fit to agree with me, at least on that subject, and I suspect that we'd all agree here that we have a resolution to that effect. Having said that, I want to work very much, looking forward very much to working with you. Your congressional delegation has been extremely important. They are the ones who eventually have to ask for the money. They have to make it a high priority. Congressman Foley has been extremely good in doing that. I would urge you to involve Congressman Hastings as well and get him involved in making the request for the beaches. The two senators, excellent. With the change of senators a couple of years ago when Senator Mack retired and Senator Nelson replaced him, one of the great things about working with the two Florida senators, and I do have clients in other states, is that they work together, whether they're the same party or different parties. They work totally together on making these requests. And I do mean totally together. Their requests are submitted jointly. They're prioritized jointly. We don't have that in most other states. There's a great advantage to that we have, which is why Florida comes back from zero and does very nicely. So my urging would be not only the Commission to be contacting members of Congress, but I would hope that people in the community who care about their beaches, who see it as an important part of the environment, know that not only is the recreation significantly important to the community for its recreational value, for its economic value, but also for its environmental value. You're, my judgment, the turtle nesting capital of the United States. And you have certainly a huge turtle population. We were in an area yesterday and visiting where there's rock revetment up there. And they have some turtle nesting signs in other parts of the beaches, and we were talking about it, and they said, well, since it was the Department of Transportation along A1A that put in the rock revetment in order to protect A1A, and since they put in the rock revetment, we've had a heck of a lot of decrease in turtle nesting, because turtles can't nest in rocks. We need to keep that beach good for the turtles as well, and for the other species. It's all extremely important, not just on the sand side of the environment, but on the water side of the environment, that coast be maintained in a very healthy format. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I appreciate the time that you have, and I again appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I understand that Commissioner Hutchison is going to be up testifying in Tallahassee, and you have a lot of battles to go through there now. I wish you the best of luck on that one, and it's one that I keep very much in touch with the Florida Shore and Beach Preservation Association's lobbyist on, because the money that comes from the state is money that's leveraged with the federal government. It's extremely important. Basically, if we don't have the state continue its program and its commitment, not only in funds, but in the fact that they are one of two states in the nation, New Jersey being the other one, which has a dedicated fund. And these two states are able to use their dedicated funds to leverage well with the federal government. Other states do it on a different basis and mostly ad hoc. So therefore, we want to keep that dedicated fund going. I wish you luck in going up there, Commissioner, and in trying to convince the state that, one, not only do we need to get the dollars, but we need to keep that fund intact in these difficult times. I know it's difficult.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Marlowe, I want to thank you. I know I've met you up in Washington, and on behalf of St. Lucie County, you have worked very hard and very diligently. And I also want to add my compliments to the people who live in St. Lucie County. I have come back and requested letter after letter, phone call, faxes, whatever, and the residents have actually followed through with that. So I'm very proud of that fact. So again, I'll be seeing you in Washington in March.
Great. On
this, and hopefully we can come home with just a little bit of news.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any item that a commissioner wishes to pull for discussion?
No. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.